This week, Cobra Kai came to a triumphant conclusion after 6 seasons, with a series finale that left fans teary-eyed with a mix of joy and excitement. On a personal note, this series holds special significance for me, as it marks the first major TV show I ever worked on. Die-hard fans have praised the thrilling twists and turns that led to a very satisfying conclusion for Johnny Lawrence, the true Karate Kid, and the students of his dojo. However, there are a few things even the most dedicated fans might not know. So today, we're diving into 10 things you didn't know about the Cobra Kai series finale. And a quick warning, this video will contain spoilers, so if you haven't watched the show to the end, now's the time to stop watching, especially since number 7 is a big one. With that out of the way, let's uncover some behind-the-scenes secrets, other than the fact that violence can clearly solve everything. Number 1. There are more Karate Kid callbacks than you can count. Let's start with something pretty obvious. This finale was packed full with Karate Kid references, more than any other episode by far. From the training montage and crane kick to the iconic fly-catching moment, the episode was practically a parallel version of the original Karate Kid movie. Even the final showdown between Johnny and Sensei Wolf echoed the classic LaRusso vs. Lawrence fight, right down to the venue and rules. Cobra Kai has always been full of callbacks, but none were as beautifully executed and on this scale. Number 2. The finale's title mirrors the premiere. The title of this episode, Ex Degenerate, is a direct callback to the series premiere, titled Ace Degenerate. This signifies the closing chapter of Johnny's journey, showcasing how far he's come throughout the series. The writers intentionally chose this approach to bring a sense of full circle closure, much like they did with the second and penultimate episodes, First Strike and Strike Last. There's a lot of thought and intention in these titles, and they add a deeper level of narrative resolution that many modern shows just lack. Number 3. Rocking out behind the scenes. Cobra Kai takes its fight scenes seriously, often dedicating several days to choreographing and filming them, but one memorable moment during the filming of the finale was when the production cranked up some AC/DC and let the stunt team and fighters showcase their choreography and acrobatics to a high-energy soundtrack. It was exhilarating to watch, and while it likely served to capture some authentic audience reactions for the episode, it was also just plain fun. Honestly, it was one of the best experiences I've ever had on set, and I hope they release the footage as a behind-the-scenes extra at some point. Number 4. Barcelona and LA are actually just 30 minutes apart. While the Sekai Taikai tournament was supposed to take place in both Barcelona and LA, the filming locations were much closer. Both were shot in and around Atlanta, with the two locations being only about a 30-minute drive apart. Filming was done mostly in sequence, so the cast and crew didn't have to fly between continents. Instead, they filmed the tournament segments back-to-back, with Barcelona and LA scenes being captured on nearby sets only a few days apart. Number 5. Nobody knows how to pronounce Sekai Taikai. This is something that's been noticeable throughout the entire final season. The word Sekai Taikai, which I believe is the correct pronunciation, roughly translates to World Tournament or World Convention in Japanese. Now this seems to stump everyone, with each character seeming to have their own preferred way to pronounce the word. With so many variations, it's no surprise that many cuts and retakes were needed when recording the original dialogue. You would think characters that have spent decades obsessing or working for the tournament would know how to pronounce it by now. Personally, I like to call it Siki Tiki, just to make sure I'm getting it wrong. Number 6. Stingray's absence had good reasons. Stingray is a rather divisive character in the Cobra Kai community. Whether you love him or hate him, one thing is clear. His presence was notably sparse, particularly during the tournament episodes. However, we did get a brief glimpse of him in the finale. So why the limited screen time? Well, there are two main reasons, and they don't have anything to do with public opinion of the character. First, from a storytelling perspective, it really didn't make much sense to include him in the tournament. As an adult, Stingray had no real reason to be in Barcelona, especially since he wasn't involved in the tournament itself. His presence would have distracted from the core narrative, particularly since his role in the series is mostly comic relief. Even if he showed up at the LA tournament, just to show his support, it would have shifted focus away from the more pressing and dramatic events involving the main cast. Also, trying to give him his own parallel B-plot separate from the tournament probably would have done the same thing. The second reason is that actor Paul Walter Hauser, who plays Stingray, was filming the new Naked Gun movie at the exact same time. The two productions were both shooting in Atlanta, and their filming schedules overlapped. Interestingly, I never saw Paul on the Cobra Kai set, as I was mostly working on the tournament scenes. But I did eventually get the chance to see him in person, but that's a story for another day. Number 7. Kreese is still alive. In the final cut of the finale, the fates of both Kreese and Silver remain unclear, though it appears they both met their end in the fiery explosion following their confrontation on Silver's yacht. However, this may not have been the original intended outcome for Kreese. As we all know, Cobra Kai never dies. Originally, the shot of Johnny's tournament victory featured on the magazine cover was meant to end with a close-up of Kreese's hand, his signature ring clearly visible, reaching for the magazine, implying that he both survived the explosion and is still out there, silently watching over Johnny's legacy. How do I know this? Well, first, Martin Kove, who plays Kreese, revealed it in a recent interview. And second, I was there during filming. Unfortunately, during this scene, I was positioned slightly off camera to the left, and don't believe I appeared in any of the shots when they were recording it. It's not uncommon in situations like this to have extra background workers on set, just in case they decide they need to pull in an extra background actor, and sometimes you just don't get seen, sometimes you get cut. It's really just all part of the business. And here's another fun tidbit about that scene. The newsstand worker seen in that shot was also one of the camera operators during the Sekai Taikai tournament scenes. If you watch closely, you can spot him briefly operating one of the larger cameras. Number 8. They struggled getting enough background actors. This episode featured one of the largest numbers of background actors ever seen on the show, with hundreds of people brought in on certain days to fill the stands. However, securing that many extras on short notice proved to be a challenge. Many of the extras, including several Cobra Kai fans, were brought in from all across the United States to help fill the seats. Yet there were some days when even this wasn't enough. On at least one occasion, they faced a significant shortage of extras and had to ask those on set to reach out to anyone they knew who was free and available to come in to fill the audience. In some instances, extras who had been seen before on camera were even asked to hold signs up in front of their faces to avoid being recognized so they could play their regular roles and fans as well. As for my role, I was primarily a camera operator, and on days we usually had, 2 or 3 different camera operators on set. But on one of the final days of shooting the Sensei fight, I was the only one available. That meant for the fight and the surrounding scenes, I had to constantly jump positions between 3 different cameras, sometimes moving from one side of the stage to the other within a single fight. Usually it didn't matter, as normally you can't really tell if or who someone is behind the camera, but there were times when cameras were left completely unmanned. Fortunately, the fast cuts and the focus on the action made this almost impossible to notice. Number 9. William Zabka's kids made cameos. William Zabka, who plays Johnny Lawrence, is a devoted father, and he usually brings his children to set about once per season. For the finale, they had the special opportunity to be part of the audience during the filming of Johnny's big victory. It was a sweet moment, as his children got to watch their father become a world champion. While they were there, Zabka showed them the mats and had them practice some of their karate moves and poses. In all honesty, he really seems to be a great dad and even more down-to-earth and caring than his character. Number 10. The Back to the Future references hold a hidden meaning. In the final scene of the restaurant with Daniel and Johnny, we briefly pass by a conversation between some executives discussing Hill Valley, as well as the names Wilson, Thompson, and Zane. Sharp-eyed Cobra Kai fans and 80s movie lovers may recognize this as a nod to the Back to the Future franchise, with a playful reference to a potential reboot. But why does this matter? Well, those two executives are actually Josh Held and John Horowitz, the co-creators of Cobra Kai. Does this mean they're working on the Back to the Future sequel or reboot? According to them, they were just having fun with the idea. However, they have mentioned that they're considering reboots of that and some other classic 80s or 90s franchises. In fact, I've heard a lot of similar rumors coming from former Cobra Kai crew members on other sets, and they think they've been putting together some potential ideas to work on next. But, as we all know, rumors are a dime a dozen, so we'll have to wait and see if they actually bring another fan-favorite series back to life. What do you think? Could they pull it off? And if so, what classic series would you love to see revived? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, thank you so much for watching to the end. I'm Frank Ciopatini with Servetty Software, and I'll see you in the next one.